Hey everyone, get ready to unlock some serious secrets about wealth creation today. We're cracking open Harv Eker's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind to kind of decode what makes those money magnets tick.
That's right. We're going beyond simply wishing for wealth. This deep dive is about understanding the invisible forces, those deep-seated beliefs, that can either pave your path to riches or keep you stuck in a financial rut.
I love how Eker jumps right in with this money blueprint idea. He compares it to the blueprint of a house. You can't just slap on a new coat of paint and expect a complete structural transformation.
Right.
He argues it's the same with our financial lives.
It's a brilliant analogy. Just like a blueprint dictates the structure of a house, our money blueprint, often operating on a subconscious level, determines the structure of our financial lives. It can be so ingrained that it overrides logic, leading us to make decisions that seem completely irrational on the surface.
That reminds me of the story about Stephen in the book, the guy who kept sabotaging his own success. Talk about frustrating. It's like his subconscious mind was playing a cruel prank on them.
Stephen's story is a great example of how powerful our early programming can be. He consciously wanted wealth, but his ingrained belief, inherited from his mother, that rich people are greedy, kept tripping him up. His subconscious mind prioritized that ingrained emotional connection over his logical desire for financial success.
It really highlights the importance of identifying and understanding those hidden beliefs.
Right.
It's like having an invisible force field blocking you from your goals.
Absolutely, and sometimes those beliefs are so deeply rooted we don't even realize they're there. Take Eker's own personal story, for instance. He talks about repeatedly building wealth only to lose it all, mirroring a frustrating pattern from his childhood. It's like he was caught in a financial loop.
It's a perfect example of how our upbringing can cast a long shadow on our financial lives. We often unconsciously adopt the financial habits of our parents, whether those habits lead to prosperity or struggle.
Precisely. And these patterns can stick with us for decades, shaping our perceptions of money in ways we may not even realize. Think about the anecdote about Eker's wife and the ice cream truck. Her belief, formed as a child, that her father was the sole source of money, continued to influence her relationship with wealth well into adulthood.
It's fascinating how these early experiences can create such powerful imprints on our subconscious. It's like our financial operating system is being programmed right before our eyes.
And those programs, if left unchecked, can even spill over into our relationships. Eker candidly shares how these differing money scripts cause friction in his own marriage. He, subconsciously driven to accumulate wealth, saw it as a path to freedom. His wife, influenced by her upbringing, associated money with immediate gratification.
It's a great reminder that we all bring our own unique baggage to our relationship with money, and those differences can create unexpected challenges.
Speaking of baggage, one thing I found refreshing about this book is how it challenges some common, often negative beliefs about wealth, like the idea that all rich people are inherently greedy or immoral.
Yeah, I was caught off guard by that too.
Yeah.
We've all heard those stereotypes. But to see a quote from Russell Conwell's Acres of Diamonds, where he calls it a godly duty to attain riches, honestly, that was eye-opening.
That's a powerful counter-narrative to what we often hear.
Right.
Right. Conwell goes on to say that using that wealth for good is a fundamental part of that duty, and Eker seems to echo this sentiment, encouraging readers to reframe their perspectives on wealth.
He backs it up with his own experience of moving into a wealthy neighborhood. He admits he expected to be surrounded by snobby, out-of-touch neighbors. Instead, he was blown away by their generosity and commitment to philanthropy. It totally shattered his preconceived notions.
It's like the saying goes, success leaves clues. By surrounding himself with successful people, Eker gained a first-hand look at a different way of thinking about and using wealth. And that experience perfectly illustrates Wealth File #6. Rich people admire other rich and successful people. Poor people resent rich and successful people.
It's amazing how our social circles can shape our perspectives, not just because we're learning from others, but because we're exposed to different models of what's possible. But Eker's also big on taking action, right? It's not enough to just understand these principles intellectually. We have to put them into practice.
Absolutely. Eker is adamant that knowledge without action is useless. He compares it to having a toolbox full of shiny tools, but never actually building anything. He argues that to truly change your financial reality, you have to be willing to confront your fears and take a leap of faith.
He has pretty interesting things to say about fear, like how we need to tame the cobra of fear rather than try to eliminate it completely. I'm not sure I'd want to get close enough to a cobra to tame it, but I get the metaphor.
Right. He uses this vivid imagery to illustrate that attempting to eliminate fear altogether is unrealistic. Fear is a natural part of life, especially when it comes to growth and taking risks.
It's like that feeling you get right before you're about to do something big and scary, but also potentially life-changing.
Exactly. It's about learning to dance with fear, to acknowledge it without letting it paralyze you. He even uses this almost comical, albeit slightly disturbing, analogy of breaking an arrow with your throat.
Okay, that one made me cringe a little, but I think I understand what he's getting at.
He's definitely not suggesting anyone should actually attempt that. But the point he's making is that if you want extraordinary results, you need to be willing to push past your comfort zone even when it's uncomfortable. He even has an equation for it. CZ equals Wealthstone. I like it. It's simple, but powerful.
It's a great reminder that the more we can expand our comfort zones, the more we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities for growth. And that growth isn't just about finances. It's about expanding our capacity as human beings.
And a big part of that growth, according to Eker, is being a continuous learner. He stresses the importance of surrounding yourself with successful people and seeking guidance from those who have already achieved what you desire.
It's about recognizing that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are people who have walked the path you're on and achieved the success you're striving for. Why not learn from their mistakes and successes? It's like having a seasoned Sherpa guiding you up Mount Everest. You wouldn't attempt that climb alone, would you? They know the treacherous paths, the hidden crevasses, the best route to the summit. Eker's suggesting we find our own financial Sherpas, those who've already scaled the mountain of wealth creation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't last 5 minutes on Everest without a guide. And speaking of guidance, Eker offers those contrasting mindsets, the wealth files, as he calls them. They really highlight the different ways wealthy people think compared to those struggling financially.
Those wealth files are like little nuggets of wisdom contrasting the mindsets of the rich and the poor. Like wealth file #1, which really struck me. Rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me. It's subtle, but it's a complete 180 in terms of perspective.
It's the difference between being the driver of your financial destiny versus feeling like a passenger along for the ride. You're either in control or being controlled.
Exactly. And that sense of ownership extends to their actions as well. Eker argues that while poor people believe they should only have to do things they enjoy, the wealthy are willing to do things they may not love if it means reaching their goals.
It's not about forcing yourself to be miserable all the time, but acknowledging that sometimes you have to do things you don't love in order to get to where you want to be.
It circles back to that commitment we talked about earlier. Building wealth often means venturing outside your comfort zone, and that rarely feels like a walk in the park.
He also doesn't shy away from tackling some pretty ingrained beliefs, like the age-old adage that money is the root of all evil. He actually flips the script saying, rich people believe money is important. Poor people believe money is evil.
I love how direct he is. He even uses this hilarious analogy. Imagine trying to pay your bills with love or making a deposit of pure joy at the bank. It just doesn't work that way.
I can see the confused look on the teller's face now,
Right.
but you're right. It highlights that money, in and of itself, isn't good or evil. It's simply a tool.
And like any tool, it can be used constructively or destructively. It all depends on the hands that wield it. And that brings us to Wealth File #2, which is all about your approach to the money game. He says, rich people play the money game to win. Poor people play the money game to not lose.
That's such a great distinction. It's like one group is playing offense, the other's playing defense.
And their goals reflect that. Poor people often focus on just getting by, avoiding debt, merely surviving. But the wealthy, they set their sights on abundance, on actively creating wealth. They're playing to win.
And that ties into the importance of setting audacious goals, right? Eker talks about how middle-class people often aim for comfort, while the wealthy dare to dream bigger.
They're not afraid to set their sights high, even if those goals seem out of reach at the moment. And it's not just about accumulating a certain number in your bank account. It's about the freedom and opportunities that wealth can bring.
He's really big on this idea of commitment, which he breaks down into 3 levels. I want to be rich, I choose to be rich, and I commit to be rich.
And he's clear that it's that third level, that unwavering commitment, that separates those who actually achieve lasting wealth from those who just dream about it.
He's not sugarcoating it either. He straight up says that achieving significant wealth requires focus, courage, knowledge, consistent effort, a refusal to quit, and of course, adopting that millionaire mindset.
And a big part of that mindset is believing you're both capable of creating wealth and deserving of it, which, let's be honest, is a stumbling block for a lot of people.
It's true. Our own internal dialogue can either sabotage us or propel us forward. Eker talks about how some people, even after achieving success, subconsciously sabotage themselves because of deep-seated beliefs.
He believes those self-sabotaging behaviors often stem from fear, unresolved anger, or a need to prove something to themselves or others. It's like their subconscious is saying, you're not really worthy of this success.
It makes you wonder if your drive for money is coming from a place of negativity. Can it ever truly bring you happiness?
It's a great question to reflect on, and Eker suggests reframing that motivation. He encourages readers to focus on how their wealth can be used for good, how it can contribute to something larger than themselves. True wealth, he argues, is about aligning your financial goals with a sense of purpose and joy.
He's a big advocate for what he calls playing big, using your wealth to make a positive impact on the world.
It's about identifying your own unique mission in life and finding ways to leverage your financial resources to support causes that resonate with you.
And that circles back to the importance of your social circle, which he addresses in Wealth File, #7. Rich people associate with positive, successful people. Poor people associate with negative or unsuccessful people.
Makes sense, doesn't it? If you want to soar like an eagle, you don't hang out with chickens. It's about learning from those who embody what you want to achieve.
He even suggests, and I love this, finding ways to immerse yourself in those environments. If you can't join a high-end club, he says, just have coffee in the classiest hotel in your city and observe the patrons.
It's about expanding your definition of what's possible, realizing that successful people aren't some different species. They just think and act in ways that support their success.
But he's also realistic. He knows we can't always choose who we're related to. He's pretty blunt about disassociating from negative or unsuccessful people, even if they're family. He famously said, either they move up or I move on.
It sounds harsh, but his point is about protecting your energy. Negativity can be contagious, and it's essential to create boundaries that support your growth and aspirations.
It's like choosing to fuel your mind with premium gas instead of running on fumes. And speaking of putting yourself out there, he's also a big proponent of self-promotion.
Which is something many people struggle with. We're often conditioned to believe that promoting ourselves is boastful or wrong.
But Eker challenges that notion, arguing that to be successful, you have to be comfortable sharing your value with the world.
He acknowledges it can feel uncomfortable, especially for introverts. But he stresses it's not about arrogance, it's about confidently communicating your value.
It's about owning what you bring to the table and letting the world benefit from your unique talents.
And when those inevitable challenges arise, because they will, Eker advises adopting the mindset he outlines in Wealth File #9. Rich people are bigger than their problems. Poor people are smaller than their problems.
It's like that visual of David and Goliath. It's not about the size of the problem, it's about the size of your spirit.
He's not diminishing the very real challenges people face, but he's encouraging a shifting perspective. It's about focusing on personal growth and building your capacity to handle whatever life throws at you.
He uses the analogy of a person with a level 2 strength of character facing a level 5 problem. It's going to feel overwhelming. But if that person grows and develops, reaching a level 8, that same level 5 problem becomes much more manageable.
He even suggests that at a level 10, that problem might not even register as a problem anymore.
I love that. He has this great line, if you have a big problem in your life, all that means is that you are being a small person.
It's a powerful reminder that personal growth is an essential ingredient in the recipe for financial success.
And speaking of taking action, Eker is not a fan of analysis paralysis. He's all about making a decision and adjusting course as needed. He even uses the phrase, ready, fire, aim.
Which might sound counterintuitive, right? But his point is that sometimes it's better to dive in and learn as you go than to get stuck in a perpetual loop of planning and overthinking.
He tells that great story about wanting to open a dessert cafe. Instead of spending years researching, he took a job as a busboy in a pie shop.
He wanted to get in the corridor, as he calls it, immerse himself in that world, and learn the business from the inside out.
And that experience, as humble as it seemed, led to his first million. It just goes to show that action often creates opportunities that wouldn't have existed otherwise.
And when those opportunities arise, are you prepared to receive them? That's the focus of Wealth File #10. Rich people are excellent receivers. Poor people are poorer receivers.
That one really made me stop and think. We often focus so much on what we're putting out into the world that we forget to be open to receiving in return.
He argues that many people have subconscious blocks around receiving, often stemming from feelings of unworthiness or past experiences.
He uses a great analogy about rain. It falls abundantly, But if you're walking around with a closed umbrella, you miss out on its benefits. It's the same with money. If you're not open to receiving, it will flow to those who are.
He emphasizes that this applies not just to money, but to love, compliments, opportunities, all the good stuff life has to offer.
It's about cultivating a mindset of abundance, believing that there's enough to go around and being open to receiving your share.
And once you've embraced that abundance mindset, Eker suggests shifting your focus to how you choose to get paid, which is WealthFile #11. Rich people choose to get paid based on results. Poor people choose to get paid based on time.
It's about breaking free from the traditional model of trading hours for dollars.
Eker is a huge advocate for exploring alternative income streams like starting a business, working on commission, earning passive income from assets, or even joining a network marketing company.
He acknowledges that entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but he encourages readers to think outside the box and explore options that align with their skills and passions.
And once you start generating income, managing it effectively becomes crucial, which he highlights in WealthFile #12. Rich people manage their money well. Poor people mismanage their money well. He's not just talking about budgeting, though that's important, but about developing a conscious and responsible relationship with money.
It's about treating your finances with respect and making choices that support your long-term goals.
He uses this clever analogy of a child dropping an ice cream cone. Most parents wouldn't immediately hand them another one, would they? They'd want to ensure the child understands the value of what they had and is ready to handle it responsibly.
It's like the universe is that parent. Until you demonstrate you can manage what you've got, you're unlikely to receive more.
Eker advocates for mastering the fundamentals of managing money wisely, no matter how small the amount. It's about building those financial muscles.
And he's got a system for that. He suggests dividing your income into separate accounts. One for financial freedom, long-term savings, necessities, education, giving, and this one's my favorite, play.
The play account. I love that he emphasizes the importance of balance. It's not about depriving yourself. It's about enjoying your money today while also investing in your future.
He's got a point. If you're constantly denying yourself any enjoyment, you're more likely to sabotage your progress in the long run.
Exactly. And he doesn't hold back on the details. He wants that play account spent every month. And not just on anything, but on things that make you feel rich and abundant. He paints this hilarious image of someone going to a spa and saying, "I want both of you on me, with the hot rocks and the frickin' cucumbers. After that, bring me lunch."
It's like he's giving us permission to enjoy the fruits of our labor, to savor the journey, not just the destination.
It's about finding that sweet spot between indulgence and discipline. Which brings us to WealthFile #15. Rich people think long-term, poor people think short-term.
It's not about delaying gratification indefinitely. It's about finding that balance between enjoying today while making choices that set you up for a brighter tomorrow.
He uses the example of his in-laws who owned a small variety store and lived modestly. They weren't flashy, but their consistent saving and investing habits allowed them to retire comfortably.
It's about playing the long game, making those small, consistent choices that compound over time.
He also shares a story about a student named Natalie, whose parents were known for being extremely frugal.
It's like those parents who reuse tea bags and cut their own hair.
Exactly. And while it might have seemed embarrassing to Natalie as a teenager, her parents were teaching her a powerful lesson in delayed gratification. Their frugality wasn't about deprivation. It was about prioritizing long-term financial security over immediate gratification.
And that leads us to Eker's concept of the Financial Freedom Account, or FFA. It's like a sacred savings account dedicated solely to long-term growth.
It's where you let the magic of compound interest work its wonders. He argues that even small, consistent contributions can grow into a significant nest egg over time.
But what happens when fear inevitably creeps in? That's where WealthFile #16 comes in. Rich people act in spite of fear. Poor people let fear stop them.
He acknowledges that we all experience fear. It's a natural human response. The difference lies in our willingness to act despite it.
He's not advocating for recklessness, but for recognizing that fear can be a powerful form of self-sabotage.
He encourages us to become, as he puts it, tamers of the cobra of fear, learning to manage it rather than letting it control our decisions.
It's about recognizing that fear often disguises itself as a reason to stay stuck.
And when it comes to growth, Eker is a huge proponent of continuous learning, as he states in WealthFile #17. Rich people constantly learn and grow. Poor people think they already know.
It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking we've got it all figured out.
But Eker reminds us that if we're not growing, we're stagnating. He encourages readers to find mentors, coaches, or advisors who have already achieved what they desire, and to be willing to invest in their own development.
He even cautions against taking advice from those who are broke, even if they have fancy titles or credentials.
He believes the best teachers are those who have walked the talk, who have achieved real-world success in the areas you're striving for.
It's about surrounding yourself with those who inspire you to raise your game, to play bigger, to think differently.
And ultimately, to become the best version of yourself, which leads us to Eker's final point. Rich people understand the order to success is be, do, have. Poor and middle-class people believe the order to success is have, do, be.
It's such a profound statement. It suggests that true success starts from within, from cultivating the right mindset and taking aligned action.
It's about recognizing that what you have is a reflection of who you are.
And that journey of personal growth is ongoing. Eker encourages readers to seek out guidance and support along the way, whether it's from mentors, coaches, or even attending his Millionaire Mind intensive seminar.
He's clearly passionate about empowering people to achieve their full potential and provides a wealth of practical advice and strategies to do so.
One of my favorite quotes from the book is, "Every master was once a disaster."
It's a great reminder that we all start somewhere, and that mistakes are not failures, they're opportunities for growth.
He also challenges us to become masters of our craft, arguing that to get paid the best, you must be the best.
He acknowledges that not everyone is meant to be a CEO or an entrepreneur, but encourages us to strive for excellence in whatever path we choose.
And to do that, we need to become lifelong learners, constantly expanding our knowledge, skills, and perspectives.
He concludes by encouraging readers to take action, to implement the principles he's outlined, and to never give up on their dreams of financial freedom.
For me, it was that idea of the money blueprint. It's like he cracked open my skull and shined a light on all these subconscious beliefs I didn't even realize were driving my financial decisions.
It's such a powerful metaphor, right? It helps explain why simply knowing what to do isn't always enough. We can have the best financial advice in the world, but if our subconscious is holding on to limiting beliefs, it's like trying to build a mansion on a foundation of sand.
Totally. And the thing is, those beliefs often stem from our upbringing, from messages we absorbed as kids. We weren't born thinking we're not good enough or that money is the root of all evil. Those ideas were planted, and often we don't even realize they've taken root.
It's like those invisible fences they use for dogs. The dog doesn't see the fence, but it still dictates where it can and can't go. Eker's book is like giving us the tools to detect those invisible fences in our own minds and, more importantly, to dismantle them.
And speaking of tools, I really appreciate how action-oriented this book is. It's not just theory or airy-fairy concepts. Eker gives you concrete steps you can take to start shifting your financial reality.
He's a big believer in putting in the work, in consistently taking those small steps that, over time, lead to massive change. It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
I love that. So even if we haven't been consciously building our wealth for years, it's never too late to start. And maybe even more important than taking action is knowing who to learn from, right? Eker's really big on surrounding yourself with the right people.
Absolutely. It's like the old saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, by people who complain about money or see it as scarce, it's going to be much harder to cultivate an abundance mindset.
He's got a point. It's like trying to stay healthy while working at a donut shop. The temptation is all around you. But if you surround yourself with people who are already financially successful, who have a positive and abundant mindset, it rubs off on you.
It's about creating an environment that supports your growth and aspirations. It's about finding your tribe, those who understand and support your financial goals.
Speaking of goals, I'm curious. Do you remember that thought-provoking question I posed earlier? It was inspired by Eker's book and really gets to the heart of taking action. Imagine that your life depended on significantly increasing your income in the next year. What actions would you take, starting today?
It's such a powerful question. It cuts through all the excuses and gets us thinking creatively about the possibilities. It forces us to confront our fears, challenge our limitations, and step outside our comfort zones.
Exactly. It's amazing how resourceful we can become when the stakes are high enough.
It's a reminder that we all have untapped potential within us. Sometimes it just takes a little jolt, a little shake-up to awaken that potential and inspire us to take action.
So to our listeners, if your life did depend on it, What bold steps would you take to create financial abundance? What risks would you be willing to embrace? What opportunities would you seize? We'd love to hear your answers. Feel free to share your insights and action plans with us on our website or social media.
Because ultimately, knowledge is only as valuable as its application. Eker has given us the map, but it's up to each of us to embark on our own journey to financial freedom.
Well said. We've explored some powerful concepts today, but the real transformation happens when we take those concepts and turn them into action. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we encourage you to revisit the Wealth Files. Reflect on the stories that resonated most, and most importantly, take that first step toward creating the financial future you deserve.
Because true wealth is not just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about the freedom, the choices, the impact you're able to create in your life and the lives of others.
Here's to unlocking your millionaire mind and creating a life of abundance, purpose, and joy. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep reaching for your dreams.